Peace and blessings and namaste to all light warriors, workers, and everything in between. It is I, Sophie, today, and Rubro. We're going to have a good show for you today. I have in waiting backstage Brother Emek. Brother Emek has a doctorate in divinity. He's also a minister of music for culture and justice. He also is a minister for the Universal Life Church, and he's here to bless us with his knowledge. Now, remember, I told you all, that we deal in higher levels of knowledge and we deal in higher levels of science, and each one is designed to teach one. So I'm always going to bring to you guys teachers from different places, different areas of understanding, so that we can all elevate one another. We are in this together, especially those of us who are embracing this human journey and this human experience and trying to get to our higher levels of self. Okay. So without further ado, I am going. Oh, he's also a student under Malachi Z. York. Now, if you don't know who Malachi Z. York is, I did a brief study with him as well during the time where I was into Zechariah stitching and understanding ancient cuneiform and the tablets. Well, Malachi Z. York did his own rendition of it. And a lot of it differs and a lot of it is the same. And his book that I read was called El's Holy Torah. And El's Holy Torah resonated with me so much. So you can go and look that up and see if it resonates with you. Now, without further ado, I am going to bring on Brother Emek so that he can start talking to us. Okay. Hi, how are you? He's on the road, guys. How are you?
Yeah, how's everybody doing? I'm doing fine. I hope it's not too noisy for you guys. Can you hear me well?
No, we can hear you well.
Awesome.
The first thing I want to ask you is please state your whole name. I didn't want to say it because I didn't want to butcher it and its meaning behind it.
Oh, sure. I would love to. Uh, I Renen Kawun Imak Kridu Anak. The
Okay.
first the first part is Imak. I know you said Imek. um,
Imak. Sorry.
is Imak. Uh, we've heard of the word before, maybe just not in this form. Usually, an Islamic brother or one who is Muslim would greet another Muslim as Ak. Yo, what's up,
Okay.
Ak? Meaning brother. Uk for sister. Um,
Okay.
Ak is indicative to ether, the
Okay.
traveling soul. M is just what it is EM, but it's pronounced M as in the letter. That's how the letter M is spelled, EM. It's the
Okay.
same name as in Imhotep or I
Okay.
am Hotep. That's where the word
Okay.
I'm comes from. M, that sound or tone in the letter M is connects you to the Om principle, the original creation of the universe or the cosmos. So
Okay.
M is of or from Ak, the ethers. Kridu is Kadir, center, Kadir
Okay.
El Kut. And also, Kridu was the mother of Imhotep. If anyone knows, that's in the Holy Tablets. There's a picture of her. And the wife of Ptah, the first father of our race.
Okay.
And Ankh or Anak, Anak is an elevated way of saying Ankh, which is key. So the meaning of it is revered. That's the Imach. Kridu Anak, key to the eternal green light.
Okay. I want to give a shout out to the people that is joining, and we got Brother Whirlwind. He goes by Daryl Cosman, but I like Brother Whirlwind, so that's how I'll be referring to him. Cosman Kyle is on here from Cosman Kyle TV. These are our Owaspy brothers. We got the Bronx Yoga Report. The Yogi's
Awesome.
here, Jaway is here. So we got some people that's tuning in. A lot of people are still at work, so they might not see it until later. And so I just want to acknowledge my family here that's in the group because they're going to be listening to you. And those are the ones that had the questions, brother. So
Okay. I'll
those are
do
the
my
ones that had the
best.
questions. So my question to you, okay, starting off is we always talk about knowledge and how important it is to achieve it. But you're saying that there's a difference between knowledge and right knowledge. So would you please explain what
Yes.
you mean by right knowledge and why it's important to us?
Right knowledge is relative to taking, I guess, uh, knowledge of a certain kind and simplifying it, into a relatable way. Right knowledge is the knowledge that is also an indication of the knowledge that we don't focus on enough. Whereas one might learn to become a mechanic, you might go to school or university to become a psychologist or a doctor of any one of the fields. And while that's so helpful and useful in this society today, the one thing that it doesn't include is the right knowledge on how to figure out what's the purpose of your life, what's the meaning of your life. And henceforth, we get away from that and living in the idea of someone else who's controlling the strings. Usually, is a system, a city, or a government, and they put committee members and politicians in there to kind of regulate, what to do with your knowledge of the medical field, et cetera, or what to do with the knowledge that you've learned from their institutions of learning, how to make it more productive for their society or their system, which keeps them in place and keeps them in power. And that blocks the right knowledge that you otherwise would spend time getting, which most of the time when you try to share knowledge with people who may be stuck in a loop, right? Get up, go to work, come home, get up, go to work, come home. The first thing they tell you is, oh, yeah, I'm sorry, I would like to read it, but what? I don't have time. I have to go to work. It's all
Mm-hmm.
part of controlling people's destiny to build up power for them, those in control.
How does that
You hear
tie
about
in
it
with
in woke culture.
etymology?
With the etymology, right knowledge
Uh-huh.
is the right type of knowledge because right also is a synonym for right, RITE. You notice when you go to a drugstore, a pharmaceutical, you look up the word pharmacy, it's the word sorcery. But of course, if they was to put sorcery out, I'm going to the sorceries, mekan. Mekan is the Sabaic word for store. You people would look at you like you were crazy. What do you mean? Oh, I'm going to the Rite Aid. Okay. The Rite Aid sounds to the mind, the layman mind, right, RIGHT, not realizing that is right as in rites and rituals.
Mm,
And then they put pharmacy in there because they're controlling the potions, the pills, the magic.
mm,
In other words, you got it like this way: nature says it is time for you to get old, based off whatever you've done to yourself, good or bad. It is
right.
time. It's time for you to decay. It is time for you to stop producing sperm cells. It's time for you to start getting erection. So what do? They create a pill to continue an erection that you otherwise wouldn't have had. Pill they create, or they create a pill to take away the wrinkles.
Mm-mm.
See,
Whatever you did, you messed up
that
the
you otherwise have. That
volume.
would be an indication to others that you're much older than what you appear to be. You're out here trying to enslave young girls, young boys, whatever you twisted. So,
Hey,
their
brother,
pharmacies,
brother,
while it has a double meaning to it, it does serve a purpose of curing and healing and helping, to deal with pain, but it's also a way of
brother. Can you hear
adding
me?
to the here, the ancient deities that we come from the Ennead is how they refer to the Greek. The substitute is the term that's referred to them.
Brother.
Children of Tom, born from the lips of T,
He just
of
started
the
talking.
father of Tom. The
Brother,
first 9 years
hello,
of everybody. That's where we all come from. That's where we have 9 living spirits.
hello, hello. Can you hear me?
But they're being suppressed and controlled
I
to
think this guy.
live in Egyptian society that is would be a reflection of those 9 living spirits when they lived in flesh. So they're not active. A lot of our ancestral strengths, talents, gifts seep through, seep through,
Hey, brother, can you hear me?
under a system of control. Our way institutions instead of being allowed to grow and thrive because we're not living in a system that we create, not product of our own.
Hey, hello, brother,
That's
can you hear?
that is not the purpose of what your purpose is. Living somebody else's likeness. And living for their purpose and living for their agenda.
Brother, can you hear me?
Living for the generation,
Hello?
especially not for but it's not. I do
Hey, hello.
that as a message.
Hey, hello? Hello? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Uh-oh. I think we might have lost them, guys. I think we might have lost them. Here we go again with this thing going. Yeah, he was going there. That was hilarious. I'm, I'm sitting here going, hello, can you hear me? He's just steady talking, steady talking, steady talking. I'm getting ready to call him back and say, hey, what happened? Ah, jeez. Give me a second, guys. I'm sorry about that. Oh, there he goes. Okay, I got him.
Came through, just disrupted this call.
Brother, can
I
you
know.
hear me?
I think I know what to do now. Yes, I can hear you well. Can y'all hear me?
Okay, what happened was I was calling for you that entire time you were talking because we couldn't hear anything, and you just kept talking and talking, and
Okay.
I'm going, "Hey, can you hear me?" So the audience nor myself caught anything that you said. So you're going to have to start it
Oh,
all
okay.
over. I'm sorry.
Okay, no problem. That's all right. What's the last thing you heard?
Okay, you were talking about the pharmaceuticals, right? And you were talking about right. I am done. Why does this keep happening to me? Obviously, it's because I have somebody with something important to say. And we're getting ready to call again. Now, he was talking about Rite Aid, and there he goes. Okay, he's right back one guy. Sorry.
I was trying to set us so keep a visual, but I don't have anything here to help provide it. It keeps
Okay.
bumping into something else. That's what it is.
Okay. Are you in a place where you're getting healthy Wi-Fi? Hello? Okay, here we go again.
It might have been. It's just
Okay,
try to
are you
work the
in a place where
device.
you can get Wi-Fi?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, you because you keep coming in and out, and you were talking about the pharmaceutical industry. Okay,
Right.
he's a young hero said, "No, he not, boo boo." You got people in the
Huh?
audience saying, "No, you don't have no Wi-Fi because you keep coming in and out." Um, so you were talking about the place you started. We started losing you when you were talking
Okay.
about the pharmaceutical industry and Rite Aid and about rites and being
Right.
rituals, and then you started going
Right.
into a flow, and we couldn't hear you. So please
Okay.
continue.
All right. So that's why they call it Rite Aid, and they spell it RITE, and letting you know it's based off of their rituals of white magic, Wiccan magic, where they control, they make everything indicative about taking a pill. Nature says it's time for you to decline. Oh man, hold on, I'm still here.
Okay.
Nature says it's time for you to decline, but they create a pill that enables you to continue on having an erection past the point that nature has already, on its own, decided to slow you down. Uh,
Okay.
or the Botox, to get rid of the wrinkles. So now people can appear younger than what they really appear. And what do? They prey on younger people. So they're still trying to have a thrill. They're trying to prolong the existence of evil activity,
Mm,
desirous activity. That creates a block in the spiritual energy that otherwise might be. There's a pill for just about everything to keep you younger and prettier and more handsome than you were when you were actually that age. And that also takes your attention away, or the general public's attention away from being able to learn to accept the what the changes in their human anatomy means, indication of wisdom, experience, and the time for being prepared for more higher purposes, spiritual purposes. So this system is designed to get out of its people all that it can, all the way up until the point they can't even do it no more.
mm,
It's self-destructive. That's the right knowledge, and creating awareness of what the meaning of that right aid pharmaceutical really means, which is, when you look up the word pharmacy, is from the Greek word pharmakia, which is the Greek word for sorcery. But they don't want to put sorcery on there. which is what the word pharmacy means. But a lot of people don't look up the meaning of the words or where the words come from, so they're able to, throw pharmacy in front of the people without being challenged. On, wait a minute, what am I doing? You know, and then but they'll
Gotcha.
use sorcery in the Harry Potter movie or in the Bible associated with the devil or evil, you know, agent or something. So,
I got you. All right.
mhm.
So before we get into the meat, because I got some very serious questions. This is just for the audience. You, just like many of us, came out of Christianity, correct? And how did you
Yes,
end up
I
on
did
this
that.
path?
I would ask questions. Actually, I wasn't really asking anything. Um, I would see posters of Dr. York as Panna Babyanun. Um, and I didn't. There was nothing else to it. It was just a picture of him. Um, back in the early '80s, that was the way of promoting someone that was really talented with music or something, some new product coming out. But posters were like they've been there for a while. Um, I didn't understand why there was so many of them, and I grew fond of music. And I said I never heard of this person before. So it took a while to connect the dots. But I would run into some of the Islamic brothers in Center City at the train stops, trolley stops downtown. But I didn't know that they were, affiliates or of his, or representatives of his. But they had, lecture tapes of his teachings. Yeah. So I would run past them every day after school on the way to the mall. As I got older, I started to have a heart to, patronize and support my brothers out here, you know what I mean? Just trying to make an honest dollar, doing it this way. And uh, I was into extraterrestrials, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, I think was still coming on, was still quite, something to see. Battlestar Galactica, that was the kind of stuff that was out then. In Search of by Leonard Nimoy was really what got me. Um, as far as Christianity is concerned, it tied in some kind of way I didn't know how. I used to read a lot of Daniel Cohen's books in early grade school.
Okay.
He had one for ghosts, one for extraterrestrials, and one for mysteries unsolved. So I was always open to the unexplained, while I was also taught to be religious or be spiritual, and that the need for prayer, some kind of way, the combination of those two come together, because I felt the
Mhm.
presence of that in what we call a church. you know um, Going to school with other students, you get a chance to sit next to other people who have different backgrounds. I had a friend whose name was Raheem. He had a Muslim name, but he said he was born again Christian, starts Christian. And I was like, I thought that was interesting. Like, how'd that happen? So apparently the father grew up Muslim, had the children, met the mother, had children, named all the children with Islamic names, Raheem, Hassan, his brother. Um, and then after he got married, they converted to Christianity, but they still had the Islamic names. So I was like, oh, okay. I didn't think nothing of it. One day I came across a pamphlet, Christianity Politics. Is Christianity Politics? And it had in there a couple chapters and verses with a couple things in there saying that Jesus called the woman a dog, a woman from Sidon, or Canaanite woman. He refused to help her. And I was like, really? That's in the Bible? And that was the main thing back then, was that the teachings of Dr. York was he was finding things that were actually in the Bible. And I didn't think that you didn't hear in your usual Sunday service. So when I came to present these chapters and these verses according to what was written in the pamphlets, but I let them know that I got it from the pamphlet. They didn't have no answer for it. They told me straight up it wasn't in there. That where did I get that from? Whoever's telling you this is lying to you. So when I would go look it up, and he was a Christian, and I was like, so was it in there? I mean, just without knowing anything on a humbug, he was like, yeah, it was in there though. I don't know. So what does it mean? He was like, I don't know. I didn't know that Jesus, you know, treated the woman this way. That's not what we're taught. That was the beginning of it. Like, oh wow.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. So now, You were talking to me on the phone in classes of ether from 6th to 9th grade. And I think that's what I'm really in here to learn about from you. Would you
Mhm.
give us a breakdown on what you believe ether is and how we relate to that in the cosmos while we're here in this realm?
Okay, all ether is subatomic particles. Ether is a form of gas,
Okay.
but it's on a level of gas that's beyond the gas that we would know. When we think of a gas, we think of solid, liquid, and gas because that's how they teach it, right? So um, we all are made up of physical composition because you can see a reflection of yourself in the mirror. We're made up of fluid, because we have different types of fluid running through the body. Through the blood is one. You have white blood cells, red blood cells, and everything else in between. So we're also made up of gas. We definitely burp and have flatulence, and there's other types of gases that go on because there's a lymphatic system in there. There's a reproductive system in there. There's a respiratory system in there. There's different systems that are regulating the body's function, even while we're asleep, voluntary and involuntary. So henceforth, what is the next stage beyond that stage of gas? Because you can get all of that right here within this plane, within this planet, this world, without leaving beyond the 7 layer atmosphere that's been created for us in order for us to have light, or what we are interpreting as light, which is really energy, giving us heat. So when you put all of those things together, the only gas that can exist, or that does exist outside the 7 layer atmosphere, is ethers. So those ethers then proliferate down into here, into different regions, more dense regions of ethers, and they take on different names in the, I guess, scientific community, in order to understand their characteristics.
Okay.
Ultra gaseous matter, mental ether, light ether. Um, Everything that we use to light up our world is made up of some kind of gas, and we call it and refer to it as ether. We just give it names like electricity, you know, a light bulb, radio is one of them. We don't not realizing we're saying radiation in short, so we just say radio, you know, and then it took me a while to realize, like, oh, that's short for radiation. Okay. So that's a form of ether that transmit sound, you see. And that's how you start to get into how much of this is being manipulated, but being camouflaged by different names and tones, controlled by the system of education run by the politicians. So you have 6 to 9, you have 1 through 9 etheric levels on the
Okay.
etheric side, right?
Okay.
Human existence operates from 6 to 9,
Okay.
really 5 to 9. But 5 is a state of human existence in the etheric levels that is uh, demented. There's no reasoning with the individual or beings, So at some point in time, from they human beings of a particular kind that were at that low of a stage had to have evolved into a higher stage to become six. It's sort of what gave birth to the concept of 666, the double, because
Mm.
when you're speaking about etheric levels, right? What it means is that it's the a level of intelligence in the gas within each particle of gas that's breathed in. That's why we learn the control of the breath to align with the mind, spirit, in the body, right? To control the
Mhm.
flow of blood. You're controlling the breathing, right? So there's intelligence within those particles. Um, and the higher form of the ether, meaning the faster the vibrations on the subatomic level on the 9th degree, which is why it's called non-ether or non-etheric beings, 9 to the 9th power of 9, the highest number in the cosmos. After that, it's just a repeat. It goes into 1,000, and that 1,000 becomes the mother, the birth, the nine, triple nine, which becomes three flags in the glyphs of our ancient deities, which represent the Natharu, which they changed to Ntiru, which they changed to Elohim, which they changed to Anunnaki, etc., etc., etc. Nine ether through time and age becomes six ether, as we was talking about when people get old or
Right.
elderly and things stop functioning to work, and you're like, man, my knees, I'm getting old, my back. You start to feel those. Because they're not, the body in this physical form is connected by an interlattice of wires that are made up of etheric components, and those etheric components are used to move the ethers from the etheric side into the physical side to make sure that all of your organs, your living organs and tissues, your body has the vital life force energies that it gets from the etheric side to give it the life force that it needs. Without that, it would just be an empty shell. It wouldn't be anything, you know. But there must be a force, an internal force that's being fed what it needs from the other side. And you know that that's true because you, everything that happens to you, you see it when it's already done to you, meaning that you won't know you're sick until you're already coughing or no nasal drip, you get a runny nose. But infection has already taken place deep down inside of your physiological existence. That means that there's a disconnection, between the etheric self and the physical self. And it takes a while for it to repair itself. And then once your self is repaired, you find yourself being able to heal. So nine ether through
Interesting.
time and age becomes six ether, and six ether can be reborn again back to nine. Just wanted to make that clear in the last part. Then I yield. When six ether through time and age dies and doesn't go back to becoming nine, then that becomes the death of death, and that's when you become a ghost.
Got you. Okay. So, I hear about ether a lot, and mostly we're dealing with hair. How do you tie that into nine ether strands of hair versus, any other strands of hair? How are you tying that in?
Because it's protein. All the body wants from whatever we consume is protein. And it's the protein in the hair or the lack of it that makes it respond the way it responds when it rolls out of the scalp. Because the ether is, again, it's inside of the shell of the person that we call the physical body. And it's the ingredients within that ether, whether it's six, seven, eight, or nine, that causes the hair to grow the way it causes it to grow, which is an inherited factor, from one generation to another generation. Non-ether is the combination of
Okay.
all chemicals and gases. So
Okay.
being as though it's of the highest, it's our hair has the roughest texture and the highest receptivity in receiving out information, knowledge from outside there's atmosphere. Intuitive. That makes us so intuitive. We have a direct connection with the Most High. We can see in the dark. We can give birth without the aid of the opposite sex, as asexual creatures. There's a lot of things that we used to be able to do that we don't do. We used to be able to breathe underwater. So what happens is we have these experiences when we dream, when we used to be able to do these things genetically, whatever how many generations back before there was the manifestation of other races or tribes of people on the planet that we started to water down our genetics with, and then we lost those abilities. So they come back to us in the form of these etheric imprints, because it stays with you. It just might be dormant or sleeping, but it stays with you. Mhm.
Now it's interesting that you said that because you had a conversation with me earlier about races, and you were saying that races did not exist. It was only considered tribes, and it was a play on words. Would you
Yes,
go ahead and explain
yes.
um, to the audience what you meant by that?
Mhm. The first part of the word race or racism is the word Ra, literally the
Okay.
word Ra, which is an ancient Egyptian word. So, in order to spellbind people, you combine words. When you combine words, you're forming a combination. If you look at the word combination, it means a combined nation of things. So they're taking elements from every culture and combining them to form new words to give them new ideas, new meanings to them for what they wanted to mean, but not telling us where they got it from. Just throwing it out there in the world for us to use, and we don't know we're casting spells on their behalf, not thinking about what we're saying. So the next part is schism. Most C's and C words are really what? S's. And a lot of times when you're saying something in an S sound, you could be misinterpreted as a C tone or sound. Racism. Racism. If you say it fast enough, you get the word razor, razor. Ah, that's what it is. So when you do the etymology on the words, a lot of the words are telling you what it is and where they come from by how they were and how they evolved into the what we come to know them as by how we misinterpret them in the head. It's the when we're singing it off key until you do the etymology on the word and you find out, oh, it's a French word. It comes from the French razor, and it got switched to razism, which means to cut,
Mm,
to divide. So why would everybody come around with this is my race? That's my race. I'm the part of the black race. I'm part of the white race. That's a trick. That's the spell. The lures to sleep or lures into a fight that we don't know nothing about that we didn't start. So
what we
what are
did.
we? What do we what we refer to ourselves as tribe? Tribal. When they travel to see only here in America, they this is this race, this that race. But when they go and travel to a country in India, far away, tucked away, oh, we're part of the so and so tribe. And when they go to Africa to a tribe that's tucked away in the jungle, we're here sitting amongst the so and so, the Ethiopian tribe. They don't refer to it as a race. They only
Right.
they only use that here. So that must mean that they're inducing a certain kind of thinking pattern of thinking here for their control and desire.
Gotcha.
Mhm.
Okay, so you got some questions from the audience. Marabantus, he wants to know where you're getting your source of information, and I think he typed that in during the time that you were saying we were breathing underwater and had the ability
Mhm.
to reproduce asexual. I believe
Mhm.
he wants to know how you came across that.
Because that's part of the. You can look at that, as above or so below. A lot of the things that we know are things that happen are a part of the development of human beings. There is a part of the development of human beings where you are a neutral gender being. You are an asexual being. It's in the sixth month of the womb, the developmental stage, while developing in our mothers, there's no gender until there is a certain amount of estrogen that's secreted or testosterone that's secreted, and whatever the amount, and some of that is regulated by the pH balance. Some of that is regulated by what's happening in the outer environment with the mother and where she's going through emotionally, and that's what's creating the soul of the person, which is to become, but has not yet been born because it is still taking in data, information of what it is to become based off of what it is, what chemicals are being induced in the mother. That's why they say keep the mother under certain control. Don't let her get emotionally out of whack because she's carrying. But they don't really say, what do you mean? Okay, what does that mean? We just do it, but we don't. Why? Because every time that you go through an emotional state, that is the soul. We're taught that we mess up the spirit with the soul, that we were put here as human living beings to learn to use our will, master control of ourselves by our choice to do so, to want to be better. uh,
Right,
but what we do, we react and respond and react based off of the emotions. The emotions come from the part of our existence called the Ba. The Ba. That's the soul. That's the emotional you. The spirit is the person. And by the ninth year of your existence as a human being, the personality, that when the person or the personality is shaped and formed by the proteins in the environment that he or she lives in, you become what you breathe in and what you take in through your senses. That's how you know Africans don't really know what being an African is, because we don't do nothing African like, not even speaking an African language to communicate or eat African food or diet or dress. The closest thing we might get to is dressing in an African shirt or garb or clothes until we told to put on his uniform, his way of putting us in his formation. Henceforth, we
okay,
need our formation to break us out of that formation that he has us in, to put us into until we build a society of our own to regrow our bodies. But it takes generations to do that. It doesn't just happen overnight or in one setting or teaching. But what does he do when he sees a group of people far off living in their own society? That's a question back to them. What does he do
gotcha.
when a group of people decides to grow their own culture? That's a question. Anyone know?
I know. I'm having hi, Amunet, my sister
He
from the
calls it a.
UK
Let,
came
let, let
through.
me answer it before because I know they want to answer another question. They call it a cult.
A
Anything
who?
they call it a cult. When you become a society that wants to grow their
Oh.
own culture so that you can stimulate Indian gene, African gene, original spiritual, astral projecting gene, there's a cult. It doesn't. If
Mm,
you didn't learn it from his institutions of learning, educational system set up by his political members, where they're dispatched or deployed to set up a committee, then you're learning it on your own, which means you're doing it on your own certification. Then you're not doing it based off of what they deemed and accepted as, aha, what should be taught. And to you see what I'm saying? Then you become a cult. But that's what has been missing from most ethnic people, if not all ethnic people here in the West, the ability and the freedom to be able to set up a society of their own without being invaded or destroyed or eradicated or made an example out of, so that other people don't want to be a part of anything that's not set up by the government or accepted by the government. But that's exactly what we need. That's why Africans abroad don't accept Africans over here, because we've been here for 4 or 5 generations. By that time, your genes will go through a genetic shift. While the dimensions shift, we're not shifting with the dimensions, we're shifting with his society. And we just you see what I'm saying? So we shift further away from our African gene and we shift more into his Caucasian gene, because we didn't build a society, or he won't let us build one without snatching the leader and locking them up or invading us or taking our land or whatever he's doing to build his highways, hotels, malls, and all that other stuff. You see what I'm saying? That's how he has us. And we get further and further away, shifting away from our family tree and more so into his.
mm, okay. Um, Brother Whirlwind, he says, well, he asks this. He says, in your understanding, is ether a medium for energy or is ether the energy itself?
It's both. The ether has different characteristics. Um, let's like I said, you have ultra gaseous ether, which because I was just looking at that. That's why it keeps coming back up, and that works on the controlling of things that are happening in this world. But it's dense regions of ether and there's subtle regions of ether that are they connect us from this world to the cosmos, where they're the most subtle. Where they're the most subtle is what we would call the mental plane. Let me make that plain. We all
Okay.
descend from the mental plane. And on the mental plane, what it is, there's a reservoir of etheric energy. And that mental reservoir is guarded by Etherian beings that we call guardians. They can take shape and form of whatever we need to see in order to communicate to us whatever message we need to hear for the rebuilding of our own soul. When they communicate, because some don't always descend down, but the meeting place between us and the physical world and them from the etheric plane on the mental plane is the mind. And that's where you go through sleep paralysis. So that way, when you're sleeping, that's when you had that etheric experience. And the spiritual body or the astral body is able to take control. The physical body is, again, everything is governed and regulated by liquid secretions, a serum that keeps the body locked in place still, because sometimes you go through those experiences, you start reliving them. And that way, whatever experience you need to create, you're the creator and the designer of that world. So whatever you need to create or see is based off of what information you've taken in and have accepted. That gets stored in your subconscious mind. And you have a conscious mind, a subconscious mind, and a superconscious mind. In the
Mm-hmm.
subconscious mind, the etherian beings, there's a level of ether that regulates the subconscious mind. So it draws from the subconscious mind the images that we have stored there to use to that the etherian beings use to descend down into as a projection to communicate with you and whatever makes you feel comfortable, whether it's covered with scales, big fur, bug-eyed, or skin, or whether it's a relative or whether it's something from another place, whatever you need in order for them to communicate the message that they need to get to you, the Rasul. That's what it says, the Rasul, the messengers. They come in whatever form, not just in, angel doesn't really mean anything but messenger. That could be a mailman. You see, angelos is from the Greek. But what it is, the word is Rasul, Rasul. That's the soul. The soul is connected to the oversoul, and that's governed and regulated by another level of ethers. And then you have, like, take this for instance. This is science
Okay.
101.
Okay.
You have what's called what? outside, what enables us to see?
What?
Light,
Sunlight?
right? We call it
Yeah.
light, right?
Yeah.
But what is it really called?
Tell us.
Photons.
Okay.
You heard of photons, right? Okay.
Photon.
So how do you right? How you heard of photons, right? You watch this. How do you what do you take a picture with? What would you call when you take a picture? I'm taking a
Photograph.
boom. What you just say? A photograph.
Okay.
And so the measurement of depth, width, and height. You see. So how does light or photons? See, we're saying they gave us light, but that's not what it is. Again, that's just showing you demonstrations of the spell in real time. It's really called a photon. How do photon is a form of ether. They call it photon, but it's an etheric particle of energy coming from Pa Shamash. That's what the name of the sun is. That sun has a name. It's a living being. It
Okay.
travels on electromagnetic energy. Without electromagnetic energy, photons wouldn't be able to reach Earth. So
Mm,
so photons don't just come. Etheric beings don't just come. They have to. Just like you traveling something to go from place to place, they have to travel on something to go from place to place. 9 times out of 10, whatever they're traveling on is what they're composed of. That's why they call it heaven. And then they say God and his what? Heavenly hosts. And the host is made up of whatever the heavens is made up of. Same way we human beings are made up of what? Whatever the earth is made up of. And the earth is made up of what? Whatever the cosmos is made up of. That's how right knowledge works. It takes those real way out there uh what do you call topics and puts them right here so that you can relate to them more honestly, more directly, and get the most out of them more abundantly. That's what being spiritual really is. You know what I mean? When you're able to exercise, it's like if you can be at the gym exercising, but you ain't doing it right. It's not
mm-hmm.
making you're not making full extensions. You know what I mean? You're there, so that's good. You got the right idea, but you got to make sure that you isolate that muscle and get the most out of that. Uh, you know what I'm saying? So you can get that
Mm,
build and that cut that you want. A lot of times, what happens to us, we just dive right on in, and boom, we ready to go and take off, and that's good, that's beautiful, but it's not with the full extension of all that one needs to know in order to know what one is doing when they're trying to spiritually grow. You know,
interesting.
without they have to be in tones. Tones is the keys. You know.
Okay. Now, I've noticed something else. You did say when you were translating your name, you were talking about what was it? Keeper of the white or the green light, and you talk
Key to
about
the
the green
eternal
light a
green light.
lot.
Yep. Hmm.
Okay, and we identify the green light with representing the heart chakra, and the heart chakra being that of unconditional love. Okay, so that's a highlight of ours as well. But I want
Mm.
to know what the highlight of the green light is. What does that mean to you?
It means the same thing. It just means more than just that. When we
Okay,
speak about unconditional love in the Sabic tongue and our tongue, it's chahen ashuk.
okay,
Chahen ashuk. If you notice the word ashuk is what's the opposite of ashuk? Condition, which is condition, is unconditional. You
okay.
know, well, no, I'm sorry. Kahena Shuk is unconditional love. The opposite of unconditional is conditional. So conditional means that these are predetermined events. That unless you do this, I won't do this for you unless you do this for me.
Mm,
That's what's called
right.
akashic.
Mm-hmm.
Akashic is actually a shuk, and it's opposite. A lot of people always looking for the Akashic records, and the Akashic records. The reason why they say they pump them up because the Akashic records is basically uh, what human beings, everything you already know about human beings, what they're gonna do, how they're gonna act, how they're gonna respond. It's already recorded. You see?
Right. Right.
So it's
Right.
obtainable in that way. It's really nothing at all. But the ashuk is the part that they kept us away from, at least until it was introduced in my studies. And then we were taught both the ashuk versus the akashic. They both play their part. But in dealing with the heart chakra, I like that because that's exactly what the green light enables one to have, because green is a combination of color as they described it,
Okay.
yellow and blue, yellow and blue. So Yellow and blue means you walk in both. You're not going to look at all Caucasians aren't the devil. All
Mm-hmm.
Negroes aren't the most spiritual, honest, decent people in the world. That's
Right.
just, you see what I'm saying? They want us, in racism, they teach us to go in extremes.
Right.
And what it is you have to do is look at
Wow.
the nature and the environment that one grew up in is a mandate and a dictate for what nature is developed into the person because you're made up of amino acids and proteins. Science 101.
Science 101,
Henceforth,
guys.
we breathe in the air in our environment, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So when murder happens, when there's a high rate of murder and suicide in a neighborhood, right, that gets into the air. There's blood spilt, but it's not haram. It's not kosher. It's
Right.
murder. So the genes and the identity in the form of chromosomes, the code, it's in the blood. Guess what? Evaporate into the air like any other liquid, and we
Right.
breathe it in. So we living in a perpetual cycle of breathing in six ether. When you
Mm-hmm.
murder someone, you have to again what nine drops to six, and you become a beast, a
Yeah.
demon, black by whatever pigmented skin, color of the skin, and you become a murderer. You become a vessel for forces that exist on the lower levels of the physical existence who are looking for a way back in, and they usually do it through intoxications, bad
Mm.
habits, an
Yeah.
outburst of uncontrollable emotions. So they're usually using the emotions to
Hey. Uh-oh. We lost him just when it started getting good, guys. I'm sure he's gonna come back up and he's still talking. He's still going in too. Brother.
yes.
Okay, we just got you back. You froze for a little bit and you were
Okay.
flowing. So just rewind about 30 seconds.
30 seconds. You have the Ethereum beings on the mental plane are not the only ones that use the mind. The meeting place is the mind for human beings, for them to have that existence. There's beings on the lower realm, the
Mm.
low forces on the sixth etheric level, below the existence of those of us living in the physical that are waiting for a way to come back in.
Oh yeah.
So they do that through intoxication, when we maiming ourselves, uh, bad habits. But the meeting place for them is the mind as well, the same place as it is for the ones that's on the ninth etheric level. So both of those forces are warming one another to have control over the physical vessel that we call our human bodies. So, and you see the response, the reaction of who's controlling what when you see how a person acts in their environment.
Yeah.
Whether it's a good environment or a bad environment. Someone might could be out there trying to stop the fight, trying to make peace with people, trying to sweep the streets, trying to be a community leader, trying to make positive change. And then others are out there cursing and swearing and destroying public property and not being a productive citizen. We
Right.
may not like it because we didn't build it with our minds, but we built it with our backs. We we built it, while
Yeah.
under the control of some other people. But it's still ours. And in
Right.
order for us to inherit the right to go back to our ancient lands again and be rulers, as we like to be, Nasutat, Wu Nasut, not kings and queens. Queens is queer, or the English word for whore, and
Oh wow.
king, yes, yeah, and kings is ka, Nick, it's the medium place for that European king and his whatever he follows that's guiding him, ghoul, demon, devil, God, as they call him, you know. So, but our term was Nasutat, Nasut, male and female rulers. If we want to get back to that state, we have to earn that right by learning how to first take care of our toys and things here before we can inherit the right to play with the more expensive ones back home. So we got to
Got you.
rise where we stand is where those concepts come from. And we got to break our bad habits and what has taken habitat within the habitation of our bodies that we call habits that we frequent. And that frequency is given in strength. And we've learned to live separate from one another instead of in communities where there's immunity to our sicknesses and diseases when we live amongst one another instead of separate from one another, because we're still aspiring to have and with the slave or the plantation owners have. We're still working out in the field trying to get what he has. I'm just trying to get my own home, you know. I'm just trying to do until I can get myself situated. I just trying to take care of me and mine, you know.
Yeah.
And then when we break that mentality, see, that's a layer of mentality that vibrates on a lower level of the ethers. That's a mental
Mm,
control. And they use the subconscious mind for the visualization. So they let all the black movies be made about, fast living, you know what I mean? Entertainment world, big movie star, little selfish, egotistical driven stuff. Nothing spiritually related.
right.
If it's though there's positive we can get is when they finally made a movie about Emmett Till. Lord help. You know.
Oh
It's,
my God, you should see this chat right now. Like everybody's giving you the big ups. They like what you're talking about. You got brothers in here like teach God. Oh, somebody's getting ready to pop in and talk to you too. So good. We did a good thing here, okay? Because a lot of people didn't know, what you were about and what you were standing on. And there's one more thing that I wanted to ask you, and then I'm gonna
sure.
let Brother Whirlwind come in because you were the first person that I've heard speak on it in this level. Typically, when we're talking about spirit, a lot of people want to refer to it. We refer to it as wind, or air. But you said that it was liquid. Did you not?
It's it is liquid. Spirit is in the blood. That's an old
Okay.
saying.
All
So
right.
what we mean by
Expound.
spirit is in the blood. The spirit in the ancient Egyptian language is Ka. Ka. You can
Okay.
look it up. You'll see it. Ka. Um, the but there's two forms of it. They don't use Ka. They use Nafas. Nafas. And Nafas has through the Arab invasion. You can get a book by Gerald Butler. The Arabs invaded Egypt and took what they wanted and threw away stuff they didn't want. Nafas was one of them. They turned it to Nefesh. That's spirit is person and personality. I think the Ka would be the person. The person is what you become when the sperm makes contact with the flesh for the first time in that world, in the cover of darkness, in the womb. The
Okay.
personality, and that's where also the tick. You have the tick and the tock, and we're born in between the tick and the tock on the rest. So the tick is boom, sperm, egg coming together. That's how you know is because a new beginning takes place. We think that the new beginning started when you took your first breath. The new beginning started when the egg chose the sperm out of the several of them that might have made it, out of the 7 million that might have been ejaculated, chose you to enter and
Mm,
broke the tail off because the tail in the sperm is the mitochondrial DNA, mitochondrion. The mitochondrion is the record of the family of that
okay.
sperm, but
Okay.
it's female, even in the male sperm. So when the sperm is allowed entrance into the oxide of the female, the tail has to break off. Only one
I see.
mitochondrial DNA allowed in here, as most women would say. It's me and
Oh
no
my
other.
God. I get it.
Okay,
I get it.
okay. So a man shall lead right. You
So
see,
wait a minute.
you know, process that. Yeah, go ahead. Take your time. Take your time.
Marabantes asked a good, I think it's a good question. Okay. He put
Mhm.
in here, he said, would you say that the six and the nine, the six ether and the nine ether put together is equivalent to a yin and yang?
Yes, set up. That works. It applies.
Okay.
The
All
six
right.
is the death of nine through time and age. So an elderly person, gray hairs, we say, "Oh man, that's I'm getting old." They're like, "No, man, that's just symbolic of wisdom and experience." So it
Right.
could be looked upon, you know what I mean, in both ways. Sons aren't forever. Sons are living organisms that are born, have a life, and they die like human beings. And we're made up of the sun. And everything that the sun is made up of, we're made up of. the same ingredients. We only identify with what we see, what we call a reflection in the mirror, which is the code in the little trillions of suns that the body is made up of, expanded outward. That's all this is: arms, legs, fingertips. That's extensions, digits. But it that's picked and crafted by the spirit of your ancestors in that what blood, which is what, a form of liquid.
Okay.
There's no contact with the spiritual world without liquid, because the liquid is the conductor, um, for the and the connector for the spiritual relationship that we want to have. That's why when you watch a movie like a Stargate, notice the name of the show, Stargate.
Yeah.
The rim is made up of a metallic metal with what, letters on them. Why? Because
Right.
that's the spell or the code that must be spoken in order for the activation of the gate. And what appears? A wall of liquid. What happens? What your brain swims in and bathes in? Liquid. What does the pineal gland bathes in? Liquid. What controls, your ability to see interdimensionally and have these spiritual experiences? It's the liquid. What is space made up of? Predominantly 90% hydrogen. What's hydrogen? Hydro, water, gen, of the from or of liquid. Different densities of liquid. What is liquid? Ether. They called it
Oh,
liquid. We
okay.
called it, the real term for it is ether. In the ancient Egyptian tongue, Sabbaic tongue, it's akak, akak.
Spinal fluid. Right.
I don't know if that
Okay.
answered this question.
All right. So, a Cosmic Kyle, he knows how to talk for himself, but he must be at work. But Cosmic Kyle said, "Spirit is liquid? Question mark. Is spirit
Yep.
in the blood?"
Spirit is in the blood. Spirit is the person. Sperm is a form of liquid. The oxide is a form of liquid. The cells that make up the sperm are circular and a form of liquid. They just contain different instructions. They do different things to make, and they proliferate one on top of one another in the subatomic world to make up what we call sperma, zera. Sperma is the Greek for sperm, which is because you can see where they got the word from, and zera, seed in the Hebrew. Nut, nut is it's a big word for the same thing, seed. Nutat. Anyways, that's when we're referring to women, is a maltat, sister. McDowell elderly sister. You see? So everything ends in with the tat or the tut. You see, for seed. And that seed, everything is made up of liquid. The body is 80% water, liquid. So you're always in a spiritual state. It's just where they have the mind focused. And they taught us to use our eyes as focal points. But the spiritual body is able to see through its whole being. That's the difference between being spiritual and physical. When you're only able to relate the things that you see through your physical eye sockets based off of reflection, confined and defined in the physical body, whereas the spiritual being of your existence, which is the liquid, right, or the blood, is able to see through its whole being. That's why because whenever there's something wrong with your blood in any part of the body, what happens to the outer part of that body? It gets what? Hard. What happens? And pain ensues. What's something wrong with my hand? What's wrong? I think I'm getting arthritis. I don't have as much what circulation. Without the liquid, there's
Mm,
no animation of the physical body. The blood is the spirit aspect of your being. The lack of awareness of the connection between what it contains, its ingredients, is what makes it spiritual, because it contains all of the information of your ancestry from the beginning of time, space, and matter, space, time, and matter. That's the original Trinity. All of us are still there. The real you is still there, waiting for the reflection of you to catch up and come back. So it keeps sending these messages and these little, reflections of what used to be and what you used to know back to you. That come on up here, still waiting for you. That, and the fact that you're still seeking but haven't found it is a good thing because it means that you're still connected. Is when you give up and you drop down to that 63 level that, if you die in this state, you see, the physical existence is an exercise for the state that you're going to be in when you get to the spiritual side. So if you regress while in the physical, if you regress to a six etheric level based off of activity, then and you become imprinted in the spiritual side as that. And that's why you become the demon, the demon that used to be human is still trying to find a way back in to cause or create devilishment. That's you made that the last thing on your mind, the last impression on your mind. Look, we're all not gonna get it all right in one sitting, one setting. So a lot
Right.
of us may transition. You don't know what's going to happen to you when you walk out the door today, tomorrow. You know what I mean? So, but you at least did. You want to feel good that you at least did enough to put yourself on a path to continue the process, which you have 24 to 24,000 cycles, if they wanted to
Okay.
use that count to incarnate in and out of here. And we used to have 24 mutations. We didn't have to incarnate. We just mutated and genetically shifted and then moved with the shifting of the dimensions. But we mixed in with beings, human beings that were on a lower etheric level, and we lost our way. We've
Right.
inherited their ancestors as much as we've inherited our own ancestors. So henceforth, that's why there's a need in the black community or the proud communities to have what we need our own.
Oh, I think there could have been a million now that we could have thrown in there. Okay, brother whirlwind. It looks like you got a question or a comment.
Hey, hey, first and foremost, how you doing, brother Enoch?
Oh man, I'm
So,
doing pretty
it's
well. Thanks
good.
for
Yeah,
asking.
no problem, man. Love and light to you, man. I'm really I was a little suspect about what you was gonna be talking about today, man. But I have to give it to you. I'm very impressed by your level of understanding, and
Oh, blessings.
I'm saying that because while I don't necessarily agree with everything, what you the information that you're presenting today, it resonates a lot with my own understanding. I want to before I get started on the ethers, I want to go back to your understanding of what right knowledge is. I want you to repeat that again for me.
Okay. This all comes out different because I let the spirit of truth do the talk. Right knowledge is the right wisdom, the right understanding, and the right thinking. Or I should say the right understanding, right thinking that leads to the right wisdom. And you can put it in any order you want, I guess. you know. So it's the it helps to organize the mind by putting the mind in order. You know. If you notice when I'm sharing information to information or enlightenment, there's always some earthly, relatable example to follow, even though we might be talking about esoteric things in nature. But the cosmic law that seems to be agreeable among spiritualists is as above is so below. It's a universal law. And one thing we're taught that we don't just live in a universe, we live in a multiverse. They may live in the universe because they're confined beings with a limited time to exist and limited places where they can go in the universe. They're being watched, you know.
Okay. And
Um,
where do you get the source of this understanding? What is the source of this understanding?
it's over time, but like I said, most of my grooming was under the tutelage of His Excellency Dr. Malachi Kabina York. And then while studying with him, I studied probably some of the same under the same from the same books from that the rest of you guys studied from Deepak Chopra, um, Elizabeth Shaw, somebody I forgot her last name, but I have a couple of her books. Um, uh, Everything in this book is not true, but it's exactly how things are. Anything that was about something different than what the normal quote person would be
Okay.
reading, and I would always test all of that information out with one another. you know we was also The Ultimate Frontier was another favorite of mine. Ida Kennenberg, powerful book. Alien Book of Truth is what that was called. I had a couple of the Matrix books as well. um A lot of Ivan Vance heard him and stuff, and J.A. Rogers' work, of course. When I mentioned Alfred Butler, the Arab invasion of Egypt, um, that's all I can think of right now. I could probably go on with a list, you know. But
Well,
I like doing my comparisons, you know,
yeah, I hear what you
see
mean. I
how they
guess I
really.
was trying. I guess what I was looking for when I asked you what right knowledge is because I'm just going to share my understanding with you.
Hmm.
The understanding is that knowledge comes under two conditions, and those two conditions of knowledge are either subjective knowledge or objective knowledge. And when you have objective knowledge, that's pretty much knowledge that does not involve our personal feelings or any preconceptions that we have in our understanding of life. The object in the key word in objective is object. The object, meaning that the object speaks for itself, and there is
Hmm.
there is no there is no better proof than what you can show. There is no better proof than what you can show and prove someone with the object
Hmm.
at hand. Now, on the contrary, you have subjective knowledge. And subjective knowledge is knowledge that is, I would say, I'm gonna go for the juggler and say it is knowledge that is illusory, and it is information and knowledge that someone understands it, but it is understanding that has not been proven. It is attached to personal feelings and personal opinions. And what people do to try to validate this subjective knowledge is they try to they use more other subjective knowledge to validate subjective knowledge that they want to be objective. And that's where you get the phrase, if you lie once, you lied a million times. Because once you lie to someone, you have to lie to them a million times to uphold that lie.
Mm.
You get what I'm saying? And so
Indeed.
I equate right knowledge with knowledge that is objective, and that's knowledge that can be shown and knowledge that can be proven. So, for example, if hold on for a second.
Well, that's a good example of that. And while he's getting that, I want to
So,
address. Oh, he's back already.
I'm
Okay.
back here. I was just grabbing something. Like, for example, I know he can't see the camera, but what am I holding
No,
up here? What am I holding up here? Sorry, my camera's
I
glitched.
can't see it either.
It's
It's
a
brown and
ball.
orange.
It's a ball. It's a
Okay.
ball. So can
Okay.
we agree that this is a ball? It's round. It's spherical, right? It's a ball. Okay.
Right.
This is an object. Sorry, my camera got the blurry background thing going, so it's
Okay.
phasing it out. Okay. Now that's something that we can agree upon because we all see the object. You understand what I'm saying? Now if I wanted to get subjective with this object, I'll say that this ball is stupid or this ball is beautiful, and then you may feel some other way emotionally about that object, and now we have ourselves now we're different. Now we have an indifference, or we in contrast or competition now about how we feel about the ball. But other than that, objectively we can agree because we see the object as it is. You see what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Sure.
And so
Uh,
I just want to break down that understanding of what right knowledge is coming from me.
mm. That's
Okay.
more has like you said, a direct, you know, it's a linear way of approaching it. But you're right, you're right and exact with that. Right knowledge is more um, circular thinking. So as it reasons, it's not so absolute. Like that's a circle, okay? You know, uh, because we learned that from him, because we learned that we couldn't trust him, and then we learned we couldn't trust each other. So we started resorting to those kind of thinking, like it got to look exactly like how you said it. We never used to do that before, because if it's like that, then we all gonna fail judgment. It won't be no, yeah, but you know, I, I had to do what I had to do to feed my daughter. What else? You see, ain't gonna be no pleading and reasoning. But his deities don't deal with I can reason with that. They deal with you follow my commandments or you burn.
Yeah.
Our
Mm.
mothers and fathers don't deal
Yeah.
with those absolutes like that. We were
Well,
created out of
well, go ahead.
divine love. And out of divine love, the highest form of thinking is circular. Because that's the first physical manifestation of things from the subatomic world to the physical. We call that, maybe call it reasoning. I think there was another word for it that we had. Circular thinking.
Call it
So yeah,
360 degrees.
it's 360 degrees,
Yeah,
correct? And
yeah.
then it
And
said 360 degrees, and then things of a higher spiritual nature. As I mentioned, these Ethereal beings, they're not absolute. They're absolute in this, not in the sense that we think, but they're absolute in the sense that we can take the shape and form of whatever we need to in order to communicate with you. I done
Yeah.
seen another
Yeah.
movies, a few movies like that where the beings were made of crystals. They weren't even human. They were just growing on the wall. Like what the hell, you know? So,
Yeah.
but they had a higher form of existence that they had reached
Yeah.
what do you say, technologically
Yeah.
speaking. So they were part organic, part machine, but crystal in their machinery,
Yeah.
you know. And they landed on the earth. Check this out. You'll love it. It's called Another Life. It's on Netflix. So it's one scene where the beings is talking to the captain of the earth ship that was sent out to meet these beings that are crystal. They don't have no human form. So what they used her mother. And the woman was like, "Why? I need to ask you, why'd you use this image?" You know, was because this is the image that was the foremost in your subconscious mind. But I can't stand her. But this is the one that keeps your mind occupied. I was like, wow,
Yeah,
see that?
let me say this, brother. You
Yeah.
might you going, yeah, you going in. I don't get me wrong.
Hmm.
Objective does not just not is not limited to just an object per se. It's also it also involves an experience that you have. So everyone has different levels of a certain experience because what's objective to you as sometime may not necessarily be what's objective to me. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
I wanted to put that out there, but
Sure.
subjective understanding and subjective knowledge does plays its role. It's not about just being totally one-sided because a lot of times, in order for you to come to an objective understanding, you have to first begin with an objective idea. You see what I'm saying? And so
Hmm.
that's so the subjective knowledge plays a lot when it comes to creativity. Like you know how when you researching something, right? For example, you're researching something, and then you put two and two together because you're using your common sense. You get subjective and go, well, what if this is because of this, and what if this is because of this? If you didn't have those what ifs start subjective. If you didn't have those what ifs, you wouldn't
Hmm.
do the research and you wouldn't come to an objective understanding and say, okay, now because I had this subjective experience in my mind, now I understand what the facts are. You
Hmm.
see what I'm saying?
Mm.
So
Sure.
they both work hand in hand. Just like creation and destruction. A lot of people get scared when I say, well, creation and destruction are processes of each other. You can't destroy something
Right.
without creating something new, and you can't create something without destroying something. You see what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
if I gave you a rectangular sheet of paper and I said I want you to make a paper airplane, you have no choice but to destroy the rectangular form in order to get an airplane form. You see what I'm
Hmm.
saying?
Hmm.
So both subjective knowledge and objective knowledge, like creation and destruction, both work together. Like the male and the female come together and coalesce and create new life. You just have to understand and know how to use them appropriately. But if I'm someone who's solely subjective, then I'm teaching I'm living an illusion, and I'm teaching others how to live with nothing but illusion and not how to combine it with objective knowledge too to form common sense, to form that reasoning.
I mean, again, that's his thinking and his terminologies.
Hmm.
It's this way of him measuring us, and then we measure each other by his scientific community and what his scientific community says. Right now, it's just a way for us to break the spell of spookism that's taught in religion from our people, so that we can get back to ancient teachings from which all religions come from. But we couldn't do it because everybody had their own personal experience. You know, it was too much.
Yeah,
You're not one. Most ancient tribes aren't that different. We're only that different here because of the rape, the molestation, the kidnapping, the
Hmm.
intrusion, the invasion, genetically, mentally, and physically. So now we're used to, by his standards in a textbook, the way it's displayed and presented and binded by cover and plastic and and by his society of that's why there's a board of trustees on the music board. It selects what movies get put out, what movies don't, what books get put out, what books don't, what gets taught, what doesn't. But what about I say so and all of that in our own tongue, in our own terminology, so that we know what we're saying to one another. I'm willing to use right knowledge as the right knowledge is a way that I would accept whatever's coming from my brother, because there's an intent along with that step, not just the action. You know, I'm willing to put away his objective, subjective. Basically, it's just saying making a decision about something without emotions. I won't get emotional. You
No,
know,
no, no. You
and
should. You
and
gotta have emotion, and that's why I say you gotta
yeah,
learn how to use the tool appropriately. You gotta have emotion. You
right.
can't live without it. You,
Hold on, guys.
yeah. Go ahead.
Hold on,
I just
guys.
meant I didn't. I just yeah. I
Because I
just.
don't want y'all to spend too much time on that. I do want to, because there's two
Yeah,
good
true.
questions in here from Cosmin Kyle and Prince Yahuda that I think we really need to address. And that has to do with the blood. And Cosmin Kyle says, so if spirit is in the blood,
Mm.
um, is a blood transfusion, is it equivalent to spiritual obsession? And then Prince Yehuda asks, how do we cleanse bad blood?
It takes generate. Well, which one should I answer? I started answering the second one first for some reason, and take the walk back. Usually, that's how you
Okay, so
figure
if
out the
blood
source.
transfusion is that
Mm.
equivalent to spiritual obsession? So if we trade blood, can I
Obsession.
take on, a characteristics or a delusion? I'm supposing, and now I'm saying
Oh
terms
yeah.
that you don't know, a
Oh yeah.
negative entity.
Oh yeah. Without a doubt. You know,
Okay,
because oh yeah, yeah. You take that in through osmosis, through breathing, the same air. You know,
okay,
in one of our studies, we was learning that there were green zones and red zones made to separate the herbivores from the carnivores. Different species here on the planet that we call races are different because they were germinated or populated by different extraterrestrial beings that come from other parts of the cosmos than where our
okay,
ancestors come from, or it came at a different time. So everybody has their own beginning from which they came in on the planet that they call Earth. You know, that we call Ptah. Um,
okay.
so yeah, mixing in the blood. That's how we lost the inheritance to the throne. That's why that's kind of a what you would call when you contain a disease, a quarantine on even ourselves because we become so mixed up with the bloodstream of those that did the kidnapping and enslaving and raping. That's why so many different versions of us and variations of us because there's 6 tribes to them and it's 9 tribes to us and they mixed in any which way they wanted to mix in, and then mix the families up on top of that. You put families, children, snatch children from their mothers and put them with on plantations where they had to take on new mothers and new fathers, if they had any, and then was sold on the chopping block in any old kind of way they wanted to be sold off. That's how they kept us weak. What was the other question?
The other one was, I believe that's Brother Zion. He was asking, how do you cleanse
Ah,
bad blood?
yes, good question. It takes the same way the blood got contaminated. We've been here, wrote over 1619 Jamestown, and was what four and a half, 5 generations to get us to this point. Guess what? It might take that amount of time to undo it. Whatever's in
Okay,
there now is in there, and not only that, you have to again be freed. We're going to have to be freed of their control over what kind of society we decide to build. Because you got to stimulate the gene by protein. You have to feed it. You
okay,
can't feed our genetics, his environment, his schools, his system, his means of thinking, his language, his dress, and then expect to change. No, we have to create it or recreate it if we can't go back to it, or we had to, you know what I mean, we take from what we learned from ancient times, Egyptian, Sumerian, whatever, and figure out what parts we want to move forward with. And that's what we was doing when we was down in Georgia. We were recreating a system, a society that would stimulate that original deity again, and then give it names. Ima Kridu Ana, Asar Aset Atun. Whereas not only were you given the name by tone, you were given the language to go along with it. Adur Kola Shutada Babazum Kaman Fergun Shil Papa Ut. Begin all prayers and thinking with Papa Ut. And then when you would activate those qualities of the Netaru, not just read about them and talk about them, but actually become them, grow them. We grew our bodies as Etherian beings so that we can incarnate into to have this human experience simultaneously with having the Etherian one that we're still having. So we just got stuck some kind of way when we got kidnapped. Someone broke the treaties between the herbivores carnivores, the green and red zones. That was the Arabian nations, and sold us to the Caucasian nations, and we never left. So we started to be whittled down with amnesia, and then we started to have differences in one another. You know, you see that in the Warrior King, different tribes warring against one another and selling each other off to the Spanish. So they telling you what it is, what took place. Oh, okay, what we got to do is take that walk back, but it's going to take whatever how many generations with the building of a society and not being invaded and being called a cult and ostracized and characterized. Even if they say this one did this, we got to learn to stop letting them be the judge and jury of our own kind. They may be criminal. They are criminal. We'll judge and we'll be the jury of what they've done or what you say that they have done or what some of these black devils have done. Because we produced a lot of black people, black skin, but with Caucasian thinking. So it's hard to get rid of that unless you breed it out and you breed a new society of being that's disciplined and kind of grow back into it again.
Okay.
Mhm.
Marabantas asked another question. He wants to know, when you die, do you remain with your consciousness of your past experiences? What do you think about
Oh,
that?
the spirit body does. The spiritual body
Okay.
remembers all of his incarnations, as far as I know. Maybe just the previous one. Um, but the higher the etheric body of you have nine living spirits moving through you. So the highest of them, or the most profound or prolific, I don't know what word to use, it probably retains all of that information and all of those experiences. Because that's what the soul is using to grow and to become a super, I mean, excuse me, to become an oversoul from
Mm, mm.
conscious to a super conscious. But it needs the collection of the experiences in all ways as a human in order to know what not to do. And it kind of learns that by having that experience of doing it and then growing from it. You know, a lot of times, a lot of groups or black organizations. That's why we invited all the black organizations on our land and gave them a spot to become, to still, be who they are. We accepted them as they were. Noble Drew Ali, no, more science, temple, the nation of gods and earth, 5%ers, et cetera, et cetera. And
Yeah.
invited them.
Uh-oh, he froze up. He froze up. Can you still hear us? He's probably going to exit out and come back in unless his camera does not pick up. And but I'm interested in that question too. Um, Prince Yahuda, how do we get to etheria or a higher states of consciousness? And I believe he probably does have an answer for that. But I got to get him back on here.
I want to know
Yeah.
what his take is. What his take is on his cosmology. What's the origin of creation?
Oh, Cosmo, I don't know if he studies that. Are you going to ask it in a different way?
Yeah, I'll ask him. Go ahead and let everybody else get their questions in
Okay.
first. I don't want to hog up your time.
I think he's going to come back in. I think, well, I mean, okay, because Daryl said, "Where you at, bro? Oh no, did we lose him for good? I sure hope not. He's got good information. I'm gonna try to give him a call real quick, guys. See where he's at. If he's on the road again. Oh, I think he's coming back in now. The state of being. Gotcha. That's the state that I'm living in right now. Just the being part of it, the experience of it, and all of that. But I cannot bring. I don't know where he's at. Did we lose you for good?
No, I was trying to log back in.
Are you in a dead space?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Hold on. I had it. I
Well, I got to get off the phone for you to do it. Okay, so I'm gonna hang up now. Okay. So we have another brother on here. We're talking about how to reach our highest level of consciousness, and the other one was, I can't remember it. How do we reach Etheria? Okay. So, how do we evolve? How we reach our highest level of consciousness, and how do we obtain, I guess, that whenever he figures this out. Okay, he's coming in now. All right, I got him. Hold on, guys.
Let's go. Hayana Hamus.
Okay. All right. So, two questions right off the bat. And these are one of dealing with your higher states of consciousness. So we have a brother that wants to know how do we reach that, and he's gone. And he's gone. Okay. I guess it's difficult, guys, trying to teach and talk on the road and whatnot. So I'm going to give him a few seconds to come back. Unless somebody else wants to jump in and talk about it. Okay, here you go. Okay. Brother, still not showing up.
Hello?
Okay, there you go. I could see you backstage, but I couldn't see you up there.
Okay.
So we're trying to figure out how to reach the highest state of being and how we reach Etheria.
Okay. Well, you're already an Ethereum. You're connected. As I mentioned before, the fact that you're still aspiring to become one with.
Okay. So perhaps we're going to end the show. I don't know if we can keep him. I don't know where he's at right now on the road, guys. And I'm supposing this has to be difficult, for him, and Wi-Fi coming in and coming out. So maybe I can bring him back on again if I can't get him to sing.
Give him one more time.
Hmm?
Give him another chance.
I am trying to give him another chance because I want him to get this in. That highest level, of consciousness, how he
Yeah, I'm waiting to hear that.
thinks about that. I want to hear it too.
He just told us that we was Ethereum. I was like, what? What?
I don't know if he's using the same terminology as you guys are. I don't think he said he.
No, he's not
studies the
doing that. I mean,
Owaska, so
I'm
he
that's
have
why
to.
we're here. I'm here just to learn,
Yeah.
and I'm interested in what he got to say. I'm not. That's why I'm not running my mouth and stumping on what he's sharing. He just, he coming from his understanding. I'm not here to contend that, but I'm just. Go ahead. He back in.
Trying to get the word
Yep, I'm
there.
back.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm back.
Okay. Are you in a bad space? Are you in a bad space?
No. I think that I was trying to position the phone differently, and where I had to find another way to position. I'm hoping that it'd be all right now.
Okay. All right. So how do we get to our highest level of consciousness? How do we get to that Ethereum realm?
Right.
How
We
do we
already
step
mentioned
into
that first is divine love, and that's acceptance. So right knowledge, like I said, is the highest form of reasoning of the divine mind. In order to be divine, you would think about how your parents feel when you don't understand everything that they're telling you. And they want you to so bad to accept what they're telling you based off of their experience, but you haven't experienced it. So it becomes a hearsay kind of thing, but they're your parents. So, or they're in
Right.
relation to you. So divine love is acceptance of their reality if it winds up being a different path that they've chosen. Your children come through you, you know, and they rent you out to become. They use you for your genetics to become who they want to be in this world. That's why in ancient times, I learned that there were you didn't mate with someone unless you were calibrated by a priest. Well, ain't nobody taken up conversation or consultation of someone of a higher spiritual regard in order to see what feminine would be the best suited genetically for our race and kind for the future posterity and for the higher development of our genetics. No one sits and thinks about that when they pick a spouse or partner. They're looking at other things. Oh, he's fine. Or she look good. Or she nice. Or this and the outer shell. So
Right.
in ancient times, we what most tribes do, they have shamans and things, or priests that make sure that the two that are copulating, you know what I'm saying, will be fruitful not just for themselves, but for the tribe. But we got to learn to live as a tribe first to even get to that point of even raising and producing priests of that caliber. And henceforth, they would be taught the right knowledge on how to see who would be a better fit or appropriate fit for you, that would be a better, what I mean, that would calibrate correctly with your system. Your mothers and fathers try to do it just by feelings and emotions. I don't like that boy. I get a bad feeling. We see it in little reflections bleeding through, but it's just not as always clear enough because we're living in a society where you have so many different choices. It's the devil's choices that creates the confusion. I don't have to do that. I can do this. Why? Because he made it available to you. So it's only us that's making the decisions. But we don't live in a system or society that cultivates that kind of spiritual discipline other than just within the household. The minute you step outside that door, you become something else. So to reach that divine level, you had to realize that you're already connected to it. You haven't separated from it, or else you wouldn't have the desire to want to aspire to become one with it again. So you have these different realities when you dream, where you're learning from all of these experiences on how to, you know, get the most out of the situation, the version that you're living in, the reality that you're living in. Eventually, what happens is when you, at the end of each person's life cycle, you merge with that other version of yourself and you
Mm,
become one with it. And every time you merge and complete a life cycle of some sort, you grow stronger in experience and wisdom and knowledge and existence and in the cosmos to the point you become the overseer that you've been praying to or calling on. You know, you become the Elohim, you become the Anunnaki, you become the supreme being of ether and physical and everything else in between. But you need the soul needs to have those experiences in order to know what to do to gain the wisdom. In order to become, you have to become the wisdom, not learn the wisdom, become the knowledge, not just learn the knowledge. You see what I'm saying? You become the teachings, you become the living word because you're 80% water,
that's what I preach.
fluid, you know. See, amen to that. That's right.
I do. I do. I always specify the importance of not only just being, but being the book, speaking life, tapping directly into those areas. So, yeah, I get that. I get that.
Hmm.
Keep going, though.
It's this takes life cycles. So here we have a clock that's based, a day is based off 24 hours. So that already tells you that the magnetic pull in the form of whatever we call it, gravity, gravitons, produced by gravity, electromagnetism, the four forces, strong force and weak force, gives us a 24-hour clock in order to get all we can out of that day to master or complete what it is we're trying to complete in order to say, okay, I did what it is I was supposed to do today. I got it done. You see, that's why his focus on things does what? Distract us. You can't read this book while you're on the job. You see, things like, oh, I gotta wait till I go home. I gotta wait till I break for lunch. Now I can take a sneak peek at it. I gotta wait till I go on vacation. We gotta wait till we get time off from doing for him and building his system up in order to get time for us to do for us spiritually. You see, and that's why it takes us longer to come in and out of here to get it right. And next thing you know, we ran over or mugged or shot or something. You see what I'm saying? And or we run out of time, or we get distracted, or we got to take care of our loved ones, or I don't have. If we lose more time that we need to develop ourselves through concentration and meditation, visualization, vocalization, and materialization, spiritual exercises. We don't even get to that. Or we get caught up arguing over who's right and who's wrong and what's true and what's not, and instead of getting to the actual spiritual exercises or practices, but they had to be in the right tone, in the right language, which is the key. When you call the being forth, you want to call on them by the right name. Just like we get insulted when someone calls us by the wrong name, they want to be called on by the right name or the right tone as well in order for them to descend down into us to become us because they are us. But they got to be called by the right name. But we got to be taught the tones or the language because it can't be any tone or language that he's using because it has his ancestry as a part of those tones. So
Right.
we had to recreate the rituals, the rites. You know, it takes time to do that. You need masters to guide us to where and how to complete those tasks, especially in one lifetime. You know, most of us are caught up into what I already believe. This is what I do. This is how I get down. This is my thing. You know what I mean? We're not trying to really join in, because we're not used to it.
Right, right.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's no way to really live, right? We can't get stuck in a system, of beliefs. We got to constantly evolve because the universe is constantly evolving.
Mhm.
So I get what you're saying there. Anybody has any other questions for this brother? I don't want to hold up your whole day, but I do appreciate you coming through, with what you had to offer and bring to us. And I just
I'm
want to
still
ask
working,
you, huh?
multitasking.
You're
I'm,
multitasking. Yeah, well, I mean,
oh
we can
yeah.
see that. We'd like to see your face, but that ain't gonna happen.
Oh,
So,
I'm so
you
sorry.
know,
I need a better phone, man.
if does anybody else want to come in or have any questions, so I can let him enjoy his day.
I'm enjoying it now.
So you don't mind the questioning and things like that.
Oh no, that's what we was bred to do, to be able to
Okay.
answer people's questions the best we can.
So let me scroll up because I'm probably missed a whole bunch of them. Okay, I did bitch a whole bunch of them. Sheesh. All right, so Yogi, he wants to know: do you believe in reincarnation?
I most definitely. That's what we all. That's how we got here. Mother and father before us, mother and father before us, and all that takes place in the blood. 33 and one third of the genetic makeup is mother. 33 and one third of the genetic makeup is father. And 33 and one third of the genetic makeup is yourself. And the rest of it is your other ancestors that help you select and choose what the physical being is going to be in the next life or life cycle based off of the development of the mental being, the mental part of the ethers within your being.
Okay. Now I want you to
24 to
clarify
24,000.
reincarnation. I want you
Clarify
to clarify
incarnation
it for my
for who?
faces group. They have a
Okay.
different understanding of that and how you're explaining it. Okay, and it does not teach that we reincarnate. So explain how you are trying to explain it with the mother and the father and this, that, and the third, so we can, get it.
Can I add something to that real quick? What I want to add to that is
Yeah.
I would never
Okay.
think that you would believe. I would never think that you believe in reincarnation because you stated that if correct me if I'm wrong, you said that we are to become eventually one of the Anunnaki or one of the Elohim, correct? Is that what you said?
Thou,
So we can't.
thou,
How can we be that if you believe in the system of reincarnation? So just I guess just give your understanding, like to Sophie's point of what is reincarnation to you, and if one of those things is that we keep coming back over and over again, living the same life, like coming back to Earth over and over again after we die. Why is it that we don't remember our past lives, or do remember our past lives through what you call the DNA? Or just go in on it, man. I don't want to add too much to
right.
Yeah,
I
go
feel
in on.
you. I do my best. Um,
Okay.
Usually everything starts off the way we're taught is start with the word itself, reincarnate. You could do it visually, and then you could take it a step further, which I can't do now. I was just trying to do it, where you actually look the word up. So always take things back down to the root, the etymology of the word itself. And that tells you what reincarnation really is and where it comes from, how it was applied, when it was used, when it was coined and put into circulation. So incarnate just means is to repeat. Um, in to be inside. Carnate is carnate body. So they're literally confessing that there is a higher essence of you, aspect of you that comes in and out. Basically, that's what it is. So now the thing that we're trying to find out, well, why we keep coming in and out of here? Well, that's because after 4 generations, genetic, what we are is genetics. Yeah, and what do genetics feed off of? Protein, amino acids that they get from the protein. So amino acids, amun, ashtat. That's just a little clever way that we put it together to teach it. So you're not really looking for anything else other than the higher development of those amino acids, chemical packets, and DNA. Yes, DNA is a part of that. It's the structure of the DNA. There's 100,000 human genome. We only out of 100,000 only use 24,000 of them for our code. So that means something has us blocked. There's a ceiling, a limited amount of genetic existence that we are allowed to access or to use. The spiritual exercises over the generations of time without the involvement or the invasion or the hindrance of other cultures or races or whatever have you, enables the development of those genetics from the inside of you first, so that every time you incarnate into a higher form or a higher version of the self that you were born from. Again, it starts with you have to create that system or that society, so that you have to, when you grow a plant, right? You don't just put the plant in the dirt. You got to make sure that the dirt is fertile. That you might even have to change the soil, get certain specialized soil, that particular plant that you want to grow feeds off of from the root. Same thing has to happen with us. You might have to fence it off to protect it from the weeds and all that other stuff. You have to fence it off and cultivate it differently than the other things that are growing out of the ground around it. We have to do the same thing. And it's going to take us with an agenda that's going to have to stretch over 4 or 5 generations. That's how they got the power that they got to use us to build their system of cotton, tobacco, and rice. They use the system of genetics to and a plan and money structuring and the idea for a system and how to invade the systems of their own countrymen, plant stooges, bring the idea of those systems of controlling people here, right? And use free labor to get rich while getting rich off of the product that was being produced by the free labor, which is our ancestors, to build
What
this
is
system called America,
what is
and
the
then I'm sorry, go ahead.
go ahead. So what is the system? What is the system in order after reincarnation is done? Is reincarnation ever done? What is the next level after reincarnation, or is it just strictly reincarnation? Do we
Oh,
just keep coming back
that's a
over and
good
over again? Is it
that's
a
a good question.
what is the system in order
The
for that?
after you get to a oh, I can start. It's easy to answer that question starting from the other direction. Before we didn't reincarnate. You didn't have to. You didn't have to come into incarnate body in order to experience.
There you
All
go.
you had to do was transmutate. You didn't have to fall so far. You didn't have to be a falling angel or a fallen being. You didn't have to come all the way down. Although we might have been on different planets or orbs, we were able to transmutate into other or higher states of consciousness or energy because we exist as energy form. The physical body is just that, a body. It's a vessel. It's a craft. A lot of people say, I'm waiting for the ships to come to take us. And they don't understand the body is the craft or the ship. Some in some assemblies, that's why they call it uh, meet here at this point, at this spot, location. Why? This is the assembly for what? For the ship, the craft, the return, the arrival. This is the time. This is when this train will come, pick us up. And the head of you see, the driver of it is usually the teacher or the mediator. Nimrod
Okay.
was the mediator for his people. You know what I'm saying? And you have to build heaven in order to communicate with the beings that you're trying to become one with, that you're connected to. Once you build it, they come.
Why are we connected to beings and not connected to the creator of these beings?
They are the creators. It's not just one creator. You know, the creator is basically what you see in the mirror, or it just we just separated from the idea. You know, you are your mother, you are your father, but your mother and father are also your creators. Your mother shaped and formed you in her womb. It was his sperm, your father's sperm, that you developed into to become sperm. We forget about those little things, and whatever he was doing when the aspect of you as sperm, as a seed, or cell from that the cosmos is inside of human beings, not just outside. We're only looking at it from the outside
Microcosm,
because
macrocosm. Yeah.
yeah, it's a microcosm because it's a reflection. That's why it says God is always with you because God is the darkness, not the light. The light is the illusion. The light can cast shadows. The light is based off of reflection of images trapped in light. We call that a photo. A photo is an image trapped in light based off of reflection. We're not dealing with reflection, we're dealing with the inner eye, the mind's eye that sees in the darkness. It doesn't need light to see. So
Okay.
I see.
everything is,
So
I'm
let's
sorry. I
let's
see we're probably going to have to do a number two and a
yeah,
number three
yes. Sorry,
because oh
Sophie.
man, I got all types of things coming in here, and some of them are very interesting. I got Ty is saying okay, he got a question too, and he says, would that unused DNA be structural, background, basic biological HTML coding?
wow, that was so deep, it went right
Did
over
you
me.
hear me?
I heard you. I was just trying to
Okay,
process
so
what he was asking.
my okay, the DNA that is unused is the prototype, is the structural, is the background basic biological HTML coding that can, I guess, emanate over time, is what I think he's asking. We have two different groups in
Okay,
here
I see what
right
he's
now.
saying.
Okay, we
Okay,
got two
yeah,
different groups. So,
I
some
love
of
the
the
question.
questions you're getting are coming from the dragons that do um understand some of the things that they're saying. And then the other part of the group is coming from the faces who have a different sexual belief. And what I'm trying to do is try to make them make sense to both people. Okay.
Right, I
Like
see.
what you're saying, can it be matched cross culturally, with other systems or not?
Of
Or
course.
are they
And
diametrically opposed to one another?
no, no, no. They can cross because when you hear everybody see the man that fell to earth, what was the meaning of the under the picture? If anybody saw it, he was saying that the
What is it?
no, yes.
What
Anybody see
picture?
that man who fell to earth?
Oh, that movie?
Yes. Got to watch their movies. They put their messages in those movies.
Wait a
The
minute. I
aliens.
think I think I remember it. I'm gonna have to watch it again.
Okay.
Wait a
Uh,
minute. Is it the one with the Keanu Reeves?
no,
Okay, that's a different movie. Okay, never
that's a
mind.
different movie.
Okay. So Tom wants to know
Go
about the
back.
unused DNA
Yeah,
structure.
exactly.
What
It
happened
has
with
to
that?
be right. It breaks up. In order for it to be able to be raised to a higher level of genetics, the former one has to dissolve, has to disintegrate.
Okay.
We have a problem with that because we want to hold on to things we are nostalgic about, and that keeps us from growing and learning what it is that we said we wanted to learn, or grow into or become. You had to become one with those beings, not separate from those beings. That's why you had to learn divine love first in order to regain entrance back into the Ethereum realm. Love for all and just
I'm
accept.
gonna say
You know, if
this.
it, yep.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm going to say this. I'm going to interject here. Before I read, I got two more questions that are, well, actually, I got a few of them. Marabantis, Cosma, and Kyle has another one. And I think somebody said that they were confused in here. Oh, your mama. I don't know why they call themselves
Oh
that.
my,
Well, your mama has a question
my,
too. But I the here's how I know that I got to the level of unconditional love. All right. Now I'm listening to what you're saying when it comes down to, the deities, the ancestors, and things like that. I got to the point of unconditional love when I had the ability to not only just accept, any of the behavior that the past deities might have done and whatnot, but have the ability to just pray and intercede, and I have empathy for that, and I'm able to love and forgive. Like, how many people do you know can you have a conversation with and say, hey, can you forgive the devil? Can you love the
That's right.
devil? You know
That's
what I
right.
mean? Now, when you hear somebody say that, you're like, no, 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 no. I can't love no devil. The devil did this, the devil did that, did that. Okay, fine. But when you get to a state of unconditional love, now you go back and you reflect and say, okay, what did we do wrong? Why did we do it? Okay, and what can I do to help transition this outward? I love all of the
Mm.
ancestors, right? I love all of the
Mm-hmm.
ancestors of the past, and even those that's working with me today. But it takes a pure consciousness to have the ability to see, that before time they were in error too. Like, everybody was learning, and we're all going through these states of learning. And even those who were
Mm.
learning that made terrible mistakes, okay, when they start to ascend, I'm here for it. I'm here for it. And
Mm.
I'm going, okay, brother, what I mean? Okay, did I see what you did back then? Now we are correcting it, right? So I sit in the balance, with all of this, because I'm in that pure energy of just being. So it's not an issue
Mhm.
for me to even talk about the fact. Did he
He,
go
he
again?
dropped. He
I'm
dropped
just talking
off.
to
Yeah.
myself. Oh my God.
I
Okay,
don't
here we
know.
go.
I don't know who you was
Now,
talking to.
I know
now we are
I'm going
correcting it.
into
No, I
my
heard. I was listening.
brother,
You was
where
like,
I'm at.
now we're here now. Now we are correcting it. That's what the
Right,
last thing I
right,
heard.
right. So, like, even when I'm in my meditations and things of that nature, right? And there's a deity that might tap in, okay? And I could ask that deity, okay, back in this way, how do we do this? Why did we do this? What did you learn from that? How are you correcting it now?
Who you
I'm
talking
not
to?
in that state of no more of anger. I'm more in the state of understanding that every ancestor permeates through my DNA. And so that I'm responsible for, in this realm, helping to correct some of these things. And I know that might sound really, really wild to a lot of people. I know it does. I'm sorry. But, that's my understanding of it. And that's what I typically do. All right. So wait a minute. Let it go off the. I'm trying to get some more questions in here.
Did you see that he fell
Um,
off again?
He's trying to come back in.
Oh, okay.
I'm
I was just
seeing him.
wondering if
He's
you
in the
knew if he
back
was
end
going
trying.
in. All right.
I'm back.
Okay. All right. So the answer, I was just going in on what I understand unconditional love to be. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It, all things trying to work, for the better good of the collective, humanity, everything, just all working in a positive light. We're grabbing each other hands and I'm saying, hey, stop messing up. We got things to do right now. So Marabantas, it
Uh-huh.
says, do time relate? Uh, do time relates to the spiritual realm as how it relates to the physical realm, which follows by day and night. I can already answer that one, but go ahead and where'd he go? Okay, he's gone. He'll come back because I don't want y'all to hear me talking and talking and talking and talking. Okay, and Cosmin Kyle, he says, okay, so is the brother's belief that the spiritual part of man and the physical part of man are exactly the same? Okay, did you hear both of those questions, bro?
I missed it. I missed the second part.
Okay.
You can
Let
repeat
me
both
read
of
them
them
both
real
to you.
quick. But I
Okay,
wanted to respond to
sure.
what you was just saying about unconditional love. It
Yeah.
seemed like I didn't know if you was making a statement or asking a question.
No, no, no. I was just stating
Okay.
what unconditional, how I practice it in my everyday,
So what's the next
what it
step?
means to me. Huh?
What's the
What?
next step
What's the next step of what?
after unconditional love?
That's it. I mean, I
Nope.
just keep evolving.
Uh,
Once I master the realms or the tenets, the principles that I'm supposed to learn, then I teach that. And then I move on and continue to learn. And then I master that one and then I teach that. and then I just keep on my upward mobility. Is something else I'm missing? Tell me. Oh, is he gone? Oh, come on. All right. So I'm trying now. I got to scroll up to find these questions again. Okay. Um, time as relate to the spiritual realm and the physical realm. Okay, and then the spiritual part of man and the physical part of man. Hey, brother, are you still there? Amek? Oh, sucks. Okay. He needs to hear bro. Okay, Owaski. Owaski. Okay, education. Let me see. Let's go. I think he's gone, guys. Could it be that reincarnation is the soul after death being birthed into the spirit realms? Some people think that's what reincarnation is. That's a beautiful question, Elijah. That's a beautiful question. I have my personal views on that, but it's not about me today. I'm trying to get this brother out here. Peace to the ancestors. Okay, got this. We learned higher light. Okay. We know faithists don't rock with reincarnation. We get it. We got it. I've always known that. Hold on for a second. All right, let's go. All right, I think he's back. Okay. All right. All right. So can you hear me again?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to list these questions again.
Okay.
Mayor Bonta says, first wants to know, does time relate to the spiritual realm as how it relates to the physical realm, which follows day and night?
No.
Okay. Cosmon says, dang, now I got to scroll up and find them. This chat going faster than my hands can type. All right. Where'd it go? Okay. He wants to know, is your book.
What?
We don't see you anymore. Okay. Oh, but you can still hear me. Okay. Good. He
Yep.
wants to know is your belief that the spiritual part of man and the physical part of man are exactly the same?
Not exactly. One is the shape of the physical is formed by the shape of the spiritual. That's we get the shape from that code or from the Ethereum being. And I'm trying to remember, without looking at it, this the spirit forms a shell around the soul. It creates a home or house for the emotional you, and that's the part that bleeds through. They call it the true light. So
Okay.
they're neither bad nor good. It depends on how they're being used from by the spiritual you. So I'm trying to think. He said that you mess the spirit up with the soul. So if you, it's okay to have emotions, like the brother said,
Uh-huh.
um, but if you don't control the emotions, then which is the soul, which is the higher aspect of you, then yeah, they get you into trouble, and then that bleeds into the subconscious mind. And that's when you start acting and reacting things. And then when you calm down after running a rampage, you're like, yo, man, what happened? You're like, I don't know what happened. Something just came over me. You hear it in how people respond when they can't explain why they flipped out. You know, it's, it starts with
Gotcha.
that. So, but one is the seat for the other, all the way down to the physical, or
Okay.
projection of
Oh,
the other. Hmm.
I have to speak on that
Eli-
because
Wait
he
a minute, one
referenced what I
second.
said.
Elijah
Go ahead.
7, because I want everybody to get the chance to answer this question. Elijah 7, I think this is a good question too. He says, could it be that reincarnation is the soul after death being birthed into the spirit realms? Some people think that that's what reincarnation is. Did you understand what he was asking?
Except, sure, except that the word for spirit is nafas, and the word for carnate is body. So when you're saying reincarnate, you're saying re-enter inside the physical carnate body. You know, when you're saying inside the spirit, Well, the soul is inside of the spiritual shell. The shell around the soul is the spiritual body. It's where the
Okay.
emotions are expressed and bleed through from the personality. You know, this person has a wild personality. This person has a very quiet personality. You see what I'm saying? So the personality is a reflection of the person that is derived from how the person responds emotionally to things in this world, this environment. You know, controllable or uncontrollable. You know, and we're basically all as soul beings to grow to become oversouls, learning how to use our conscious mind and our subconscious mind to develop spiritually in control of our emotions.
He's going again.
The way to
Daryl, you coming back in to ask questions?
what I'm
Oh,
saying
there you
is
go.
he's going back on the objective subjective
Y'all
again,
hear
like
me?
with the emotion. Go ahead. Can you hear us?
I can
Can you
hear
hear us?
you. Can you hear?
All right.
I think he's a little bit choppy.
Okay.
I think he's a little bit choppy right now. Brother, I'm not. Where you at? All right. Can you hear? Can you hear now, brother? And anytime people start looking like this, they ain't there. They ain't there.
I was
Yogi,
gonna
Yogi says it can get pretty complex with explanation, just like trying to explain self and the atma. Yeah, yeah. Not everyone agrees on the explanation. Um, Things read differently if you study esoteric texts or Gnosticism. They have different wording, so it reads different and the understanding is different. So trying to cross communicate that can kind of be a little tricky. So I get what you're saying, Yogi. I'm just trying to figure out if he can get it. What were you going to ask, Daryl? He might can still hear
No,
you. I'm
what I
not
was going to
sure.
explain to him was he brought it back to the subject of objective like I had explained before, and he was talking about when somebody is enraged and then they come down from it because they had no control of it. So when somebody who's enraged and has no control over their rage is somebody that is in a completely subjective state, and this is where you use objectivity to balance that out. So for instance, if you in a rage and you mad, the way to balance that out is to be objective and consider the consequences of your actions objectively. If I do this, this is what's going to happen. So that's what's going to bring your ass down from that rage. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So that's what I meant when I
Right.
told him you got to balance the two. You got to
Right.
balance the two. You see what I'm saying? It ain't about living non-emotional. You got to be emotional, otherwise you won't be able to feel a thing. But that's how you balance them out.
Got it. Got it.
That's what I was going to break down to
He's
him.
trying to come back in. You can tell him. Okay, I don't know if he heard you. Hey, brother Imek, were you able to hear brother Whirlwind? All right, we're gonna wrap this up, guys, because I don't think we can get a little bit. I don't think we can get more out of them than what we already got for right now. We could possibly do a 2 or 3, especially if y'all want to do some type of panel. We can
Yeah,
possibly
let's do
get
a
that
bill
done.
with him. Yeah, let's do a bill with him sometime because there's some things
Yeah,
when he's in a more when he's in a situation where he can sit in front of a computer, we can do a more in-depth have a more in-depth
right,
conversation because there are some things I would like to bring up from the OWASP
right.
and from some presentations that we can go ahead and get more in depth in
I'm back.
because I want to come from an objective standpoint and show and prove what it is I'm talking about when I'm explaining something to the brother. That's all.
Okay.
Okay.
Ahmed, we know you are on the phone, brother, and we
I'm
we are
I'm
having the hardest
okay.
time with you. And no,
I was
you're
just
not
switching
good because you
vehicles.
keep
I'm
coming in.
done. I'm done. Once I hold on.
Okay, because this is the part of the
That's it.
stream.
Okay.
Okay, this is the part of the stream where people are going to come in, and I'm not going to say challenge. Okay, we're not going to say challenge because that's a negative connotation. But they're wanting to prove what it is that you know. And so I was thinking that maybe, being as though you're on the road and bouncing in and out, that we could possibly do this another time on a panel, or are you ready to handle it now? You tell me. Hello? Yeah, so what we gonna do, I love this brother though, I do.
Just
Okay.
talk to him. Talk to him when the show is over. Just ask him, if you want to come back and have a panel talk with the faithers. I think that there are some things that I think there's some things that he need to be informed of. He has a lot of really good knowledge. I'm not bashing brother because he came in talking about the ethers and it was right on point. And that's what I meant when I came in. I said, oh man, that falls in line with my understanding. But then as he went on, it was like,
Yeah.
okay, with the reincarnation thing, I was like, okay,
Yeah.
maybe I spoke a little bit too soon. But he on point though, man. I would listen to him over, some other people that's out there any day.
Brother Ahmed, if you can hear me, I want to tell you that, I appreciate you coming on the show and sharing your knowledge and your wisdom with us. I would possibly like for us to have an opportunity to do this again when you're a little bit more stable, so it can be a bit more productive. You rolling now. Okay.
Yeah, I'm never.
See, you came out again.
No, I think you muted us both at the same time, Sophie. I
Well,
think you
he's
did that.
muted. I can't hear him.
You should be
I'm
able to
trying to
unmute him.
unmute the brother. Okay. Unmute Mike.
Yeah, let's circle
And then
back
he
and do this again. I
disconnected.
got to run along
Yeah, let's
myself.
do
I
this again.
hear my baby waking up from her nap, but I think that we should circle back and do a panel. I would like to join that panel. I'm pretty sure Cosmo Cal would like to join that panel too. But then we can go ahead and help them. Let's just talk it out. Let's talk it out.
Right.
But let's do it when he's in a situation where he's stable.
Yeah, in the situation when he's stable and can rock with us. But I do. Where he go? Here you go. I'm gonna tell him to his face. Imak, can you hear me?
You gotta unmute, brother.
You're muted though. You have to unmute yourself because I'm not muting you.
All right, Sophie. Hey, all right. Sophie, I'm gone. I'm out of here.
I got you guys.
We'll circle back. Let's just set it up. Just set it up.
I'll set it up, whatever he wants to. Yes. So thank you guys for coming out. Okay. And listening to my brother talk. And he has a lot of knowledge, going on. And, we want to do this build. We want to start collecting the family, together and stop having so much division between one another. Each one teach one. We build together. We grow together. We ascend together, and I do understand we're coming from various walks and various truths and various lights. But in the end, when it's all said and done, we have to have each other. Okay, we have to have each other. So, love and light and peace and blessings to all of you. Brother Matt, you got to leave us with some closing words because I'm getting off of here with you. You drive me crazy.
Oh man, I'm so sorry about that.
It's okay. Any closing words? I guess not. Okay, so unless he muted himself again. So, I'll talk to you guys soon. And my name is Sophie. I do love you all. Have a great day.